Good morning. Good morning, good morning. What is it? July 13th, and we've been through a heck of a week. So, hello, I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for watching, and let's let's see what we want to talk about today because it's been quite interesting, is what I would say. So, we're on the other side of a really potent Capricorn full moon. And I think in order to remember or to think about like what really happened, because on the 10th we had this enormous buck moon, right? And it's in Capricorn, which is the cardinal sign for Earth. And it's in the sign of Capricorn, which is the cardinal sign for water. So we have earth groundedness and water emotions kind of really centering in on us, along with an enormous amount of flare and energetic recalibration and emotional unraveling. So what's happening in what I would say is that we're becoming sovereign on a very structural level. So we've gone from theoretical, like, wouldn't it be nice to let's put this into a structural level. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to walk through, or this video is I'm going to walk through what we experienced in this last week with solar and planetary energies, right? Which is what I usually do. I try to put the solar flares in the astrology into perspective for you. And then I'm going to bring up the sovereignty and the fact that when we step into sovereignty, we also step into grief. So I'm going to call it sovereign grief, right? What the rest of July and September is going to look like for us. And then I've got 6 really good tips. So hold on and get to those tips. And here we go. So first and foremost, let's talk about the solar energetics of it all, right? So, we've been hanging out last week and the week before, or the week before last, in my last video, at like a C1, C2, sometimes even into the Bs. Well, it's been bumping up, C2, C3. We've had um, multiple M class flares, including 2 yesterday, that are still in the 3 and 4 level, but they're still, or 2 and 3, but they're still not huge, but there's some bubbling, right? We also have a G1 geomagnetic storm that Pam Youngins posted last night. Ooh, probably about 10 o'clock, 10 or 11 Pacific time. And so this bubbling energy isn't just electromagnetic, it's also this plasma intelligence, right? This restructuring our nervous system and our emotional body. So when we think of our nervous system and how it connects to our gut intelligence and our sacral and our emotional bodies, and what Gemini and Uranus is doing, it's been a heck of a week, right? It's been a heck of a week. So when we say that the sun is flaring, it's also bringing us sovereign surges. And these surges come in and they're upgrades that dismantle our dependency, our outdated identities, our emotional bypassing, like, oh yeah, what am I doing? I don't really want to feel this way, or I don't like the way I'm feeling, so I'm bypassing it. And what's happening is this moon and these energies are saying, like, that doesn't work anymore, nice try. So we're feeling a little intimidated, right? A little intense, and all of this illumination is just sort of rocking us. So, I've been following Alexander Quinn because he's been very gently holding us. He's saying, like, this might be going on, and this is what I suggest that you do about it. And I really like how he guides me in particular, so I like to share it with you. So we crossed over into a major vibrational threshold on 7/7. So if you do numerology, you know the sacredness of repeating numbers. He calls it a portal, and it's an influx that affected our gut, our brain, our nervous system. And all of this gut, brain, nervous system is our personal guidance system. So this personal guidance system was sort of, zoom, like zapped and opened. Okay. So we want to tie this into Uranus and Gemini. So Gemini rules the mind and Uranus electrifies it. So there could have been since the seventh, this overwhelm, this overstimulation, this hyper mental repatterning. And it means that the things that we thought wanted to do, the things we knew that worked for us in the past just aren't working anymore. And we're a little angry, we're a little overwhelmed, we're a little we want to withdraw and we want to leave because we don't know what to do with this, right? So this rewiring of perception is in full swing and will be for some time now. So just know that you're not scattered. You're getting new neural formats that are happening to you. I hope that makes sense. These are neural formats that really are changing us, shifting us into new directions, right? So Quinn says that the brain is struggling to stabilize, which makes sense because we have such adhesion to these old constructs, these old patterns that we were educated in our family, in our schools, in our churches, in our work environments, to hold. And that the thing that's going to happen is there's the psychological underpinning of inflammation. So inflammation, nervous system agitation, and emotional pop-ups are these integration markers that are telling you that you're going through regressions, you're going through openings, you're going back and forth. But the inflammation has been huge. I've noticed since Monday that my hands hurt, my hips hurt, everything hurts where I am, where I've been dealing with autoimmune issues, and the inflammation has been well managed up until this week. And now it feels like, what? What have I done? Or it's just being pinged a little bit louder. Okay. So second thing is that these sovereign surges, right? Saturn's going retrograde back into Pisces. And which means that, I'm gonna combine two things. This idea that Saturn is in Aries and now it's going to go backwards back into Pisces with the card that I pulled for the full moon, which is the Emperor, because I think the Emperor represents Saturn really, really well. He's sort of standing there in post grief, post upgrade, and more stable in his sovereignty than ever. And so let's just say that Saturn really didn't like being in Pisces. And when it got into Aries, it was like, wow. And it brought up a lot of fire, brought up a lot of grief, brought up a lot of processing. And what's happening is that, and I love the way these two emperors are represented, is that Saturn is no longer willing to support any kind of false stability. You said you were going to do this, you're not. It's whatever you created that is not on sound footing is not going to stay. Right? So Saturn is learning how to build with emotion, not against it. And I love that. I love that because it brings in the way that these two balance each other with the emotion, with the creativity, and with the structure. Okay. So then what I got a hold of last week, and I spent some time with ChatGPT really exploring it, is that there's this pulse to step into leadership, into sovereignty, but it also has a lot of grief with it. And so I called it sovereign grief, which is this grief isn't about losing people, it's about losing the systems that we depended on, right? The systems that used to hold us, that we used to know were going to keep us solid, right? It's the grief. It's the grief of leaving the illusion, which is, la 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 la. It'd be so much easier if I just don't have to admit that this isn't working, and realizing that the safe structures were really just prisons. They were just structures that got tighter and tighter and tighter. No more pretense, no more acquiescing, no more enduring. These have to go. These illusions have to go. Okay, and when the grief rises, there's true sovereignty, which is you become the authority over your energy, over your time, over your voice, over your wisdom. Oh, it's like I get to be who I am. I get to speak my voice. I get to say what I want. I get to be what I want. I get to live the way that I want. And this is amazing. Okay, so this grief is sacred. It's breaking the collar. It's breaking that collar that's been around us. It's ending their energetic dependence, and it's beginning to build these trust-based structures that we need that are not out of fear anymore, right? So, can you think of that? I did the video last week and I thought I was being pretty bold. And I had a girlfriend who said, I saw you really stretch. I saw you stretch, but it felt like you still had this collar around your neck. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. Like a dog on a chain, and I could go so far and then I always stop. Like, if I go there, if I do that, am I going to lose my audience? Am I going to lose my funding? From that comes from my audience. And I thought, dang, I got to stop doing that. I got to just cut that off and make sure it isn't happening. And so it's requiring, when we really let go of these illusions or these belief systems, that who we are is dependent on what people think of us. We have to have a tremendous amount of courage, right? Absolutely tremendous amount of courage. So Vida Fidel is a social media poster, and she says every system that once kept you safe now keeps you small with let me try this again. Every system that once kept you safe but kept you small is beginning to unloosen. And I was like, yeah, that's where the sovereign grief is at our stability, our systems, the things that we knew that we could count on are being deconstructed. And we're letting go of lineage, parents, grandparents, structures that didn't work for us. And so this is sovereign grief. It's not just sadness of who or what is gone, but grief for the self that settled, right? That clung to things and there's this quiet thrill of finally becoming yourself that doesn't flinch in the mirror. And I saw this quote from Kenneth Thomas that said, finally becoming the version of yourself that doesn't flinch when you look in the mirror. Like, I know, go away. So, let's talk about what's coming through, because Alexander Quinn laid it out in his latest energy upgrade or energy update. And I also wanted to sort of say that we track these things. If we're looking at astrology, we know when the full moons are. We know when Lionsgate is. So we've got this 7/7 energy surge that came through, right? Um, and that was a big burst of energy. And then, according to Quinn, this is going to hold until we get to the 8/8, which is the Lionsgate. Now, I've always had parties and celebrated on Lionsgate. To me, it's a tremendous time when the sun just radiates and gives us a lot of upgrades, energy, and visions, right? So this is an integration of white light and brainwave upgrades. And if you thought 7/7 was a little dismantling this last week, then this 8/8 is going to be the next level up of neural restabilization, relationship fractures, rapid endings, everything, because it's not messing around anymore. So then we add on top of that, then the following month in September, we have a total lunar eclipse on the 7th, and we have a partial lunar eclipse because we're going into eclipse season, right? On the 21st. So these are karmic clearouts. These are erasing nostalgic loops, those final ties that no longer align with your frequency. This is where we get to just cut these off. So you're not here to fix the past, you're here to replace it with sovereignty. And so this sovereignty that we have, that we desire, that we want, is now coming into fruition. It's coming true. It's actually happening. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so I have 6 tips for you. And before we go to the tips, I just wanted to remind you that I have a Patreon channel that has a discussion group when we meet on Tuesdays. And it's lovely because we get a chance to talk about, well, what did Quinn say? What does Zachary Fisher say? What did Iris at Madrona Pulse? What is Astro Butterfly saying? What is Julia Blaz with the Galactic astrology saying? So we just sort of bring together and we really ground things. We take this Ace of Pentacles and we go, what do we need to do this week to support each other and to support ourselves? So if that's helpful for you, please join and come join us on the conversation. Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. A little hard if you're in Europe, or it's actually kind of easy if you're in Australia, because it's 9, 10 a.m. It's not so bad. Okay, so let's go. I got 6 tips for you. So the first one is interrupt the nervous system loop. What I mean by that is that when you're in this mental spin out, just don't push through it. It's like you want to walk with it. You want to pause. You want to speak to your body. You want to integrate. And so, what it reminded me of is when I was doing adolescent work and young adult work, is that when you want to talk to a boy or a young man, um, you want to walk shoulder to shoulder with them, and you don't want to look them in the eye. You don't want to stare at them and talk to them about, like, this is what we want to do, this is who we are, because it intimidates them. So when your nervous system starts to loop around, go take it for a walk, but don't get in its face. Just take it for a walk and get to know it and go like, hey, so what's going on, so that you can open this dialogue. Okay, number two, support the brain and the gut axis. You absolutely have to. So it means hydration. It means avoiding sugar. It's using anti-inflammatory herbs. I make this little concoction, and I've shared it with you before, of dry ginger, ginger, honey, turmeric, and pepper. And I take a spoonful of that each day just to sort of help calm the inflammation. And I notice that magnesium does that as well, right? So what we want to do is we want to look at how our brain is electric and help it stabilize. And we want to take our body and our gut, and we want to start to connect them so that they're not fighting with each other. We want to bring them into alignment. Okay. Number three, observe. Let's see. Observe relationship fractures without rescuing them. And this is the hardest thing for me, is that people are going to unravel. They're going to dissonance, a lack of coherence. They're going to start to move over here. And what we're doing is we're unintegrating frequencies that used to be woven together out of old patterns, out of security, out of stability, or out of the illusion. And these are unintegrating. So we want to witness them. We don't want to try to fix them. We want to let the truth clarify really what the bond is. What is the real truth? Because that's important to know. Okay, number four. Help if I put my numbers up. Number four, reclaim your schedule. Your calendar is your sovereign tool. It's yours. You're the one who gets to decide when you meet, how you meet, and what you do. And I have a daughter who's going back to work after 3 months of maternity leave. And she was kind of like, oh, how am I going to do this? And finally she realized, like, I get to do this however I want. And I was like, there. This is how we re-enter work. This is how we enter into relationships. This is how we start to advocate for ourselves, right? Is we refuse to overbook or to put pressure on to keep up or people please, or this compulsive output, which is my production needs to be high enough to show that I'm worthy. It's like, make space for clarity to emerge and just knock that shit off. Stop doing that for other people. Okay, number five, ground in one new structure this week. So, you want to anchor these upgrades. You want to sort of, think of it like a whirling dervish, and it's just going like this. And you just want to grab that little corner and you want to take it and tack it down so that there's a place for it to hold and integrate, because everything's happening so fast. So pick one thing, whether it's a space or a practice that helps you reflect who you are and what you're becoming, and let it be really simple and let it be really real. So I have a client that, I has been in a mental spin for the last 2 to 3 weeks. And it's like, get out and walk. My suggestion is get out and walk early in the morning, set your alarm for 5:30, 6:30, put your shoes on, get out and just take a loop or two around the block. Let nature recalibrate you. And if you do this every morning, then your body knows that there's a place for you to go to integrate, right? And number six, compassion is not soft right now. It's spacious. So think about it that way. It's not like we're giving things up or we're being compassionate. It's like, no, our compassion is large and it's spacious and it holds room for grief and for upgrades and for parts of you that's still catching up. So this week, let compassion be a structure that steadies you, not by fixing, but by witnessing the collapse. And you just go, yeah, there it goes. And there goes that one. And there goes that one. Because when we can pull in and hold ourselves in compassion and others in compassion, everything changes. So, this isn't about surviving July. It's about anchoring the version of you that no longer needs to perform or prove or explain. You're being rebuilt from the inside out. It's really lovely. And these flares are not chaos, they're a sun reflecting your becoming. And I just want to say, let it burn. Let the sun rebuild and let it be true. And I invite you to put your comments, your experiences, what you're grieving, what you're building, what you're shifting into the field, because we've been reading each other's comments and sharing, and it's been a beautiful place in the comments underneath. So please, please join in. And if there's anything I can do for you, you know how to contact me either here or through my website. And if not, I will see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.